Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into Hoopsville. We are live on a Thursday matinee edition of the show. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. Welcome into the Hoopsville studios. Hope you are having a good day. If you've got questions for us, you can always email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. You can find us on the socials. That's Twitter and or X, depending on what you want to call it. Instagram and Threads at D3Hoopsville. You can find us on Facebook and Blue Sky /Hoopsville. Use the hashtag Hoopsville. We'll try and keep up with all those social avenues as best we can. Of course, we're also live streaming thanks to our partners at Hudl Blue Frame. You can find us on the Hudl stream. You can also find us on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Android TV, and of course, we're live simulcasting on YouTube and on Facebook. YouTube, you can find us at D3 Hoopsville. And, of course, our podcast can be found across the board. We're headquartered or landed or whatever you want to call it, hosted at SoundCloud, but you can find us on all your favorite avenues. A little bit of a new look you can see graphically. We'll continue to augment and adjust that, but we'll have a new look throughout the show. I got a little stale, I think, the old look, and I wanted a new one, and it was a little bit easier than I thought it would be to cobble it together. One of those off-season projects I had that I never got around to. Still enjoying a cup of coffee. We'll switch to the water at some point as that is cooling down. I'm going to have to get my little mug warmer over here on the studio. Lots to get to today. Let's talk about guests first and foremost, because as many of you all know, it starts and ends with our guests for the most part. Today we're talking about teams that maybe we could argue are underrated, maybe, possibly. You never know. Cortland women's basketball will join us. Colleen Ames will talk to us about the Red Dragons, having a tremendous season in a little bit of a newfangled SUNYAC. And of course, that SUNYAC will change a little bit more. Her alma mater will be leaving the conference. We'll talk to her about all of that. Also, Alexis Shields from Merchant Marine will be joining us. She was the interim head coach of the women's basketball team. The interim has been removed. They are having an absolutely outstanding season, undefeated in conference play, one loss on the year. We'll talk to her about her squad. Josh Brooks will join us from Belhaven. They're on top of the CCS right now, having a tremendous season. How good is Belhaven? Should we be considering them for the top 25? I know it's a question I have debated over the last few weeks. And Chris Sullivan will join us for the number 20th ranked Denison Big Red men's basketball team. Denison having a great season. We kind of saw this coming maybe for a season or two, but the breakthrough has happened. Chris Sullivan will join us to talk about his squad and all the goings on with Denison. So that's our guests on tap for today. Lots of news going on, though last night wasn't an overly exhausting day. Though Wisconsin Lutheran did have its winning streak come to an end to the hands of Milwaukee School of Engineering. They were able to knock off the Warriors, who now fall to 20-2, 13-2 in the NACC. MSOE is 15-7, certainly a very challenging opponent. But Wisconsin Lutheran, who had floated up into the top 10, will probably float out with that result, though I don't know if I'm going to ding them that aggressively. I was talking to a coach last night at my gig, and we were talking about just the parity in men's basketball in every conference. It is difficult in every conference. There is no easy day if you're not paying attention. We can certainly talk about the physicality of the game. Something he and I talked about in pregame was the force that the officials are getting forced into a situation where they either call everything and everybody hates it, or they can't call everything and everybody hates it. You can't have it both ways. And who's at fault for that? That's one of those where I thought about it and chewed about it, especially on the drive home. I thought that's one for the offseason I think we got to talk about. I think we got to dive in and talk about the physicality, especially on the men's side, but it's translating on the women's side. And then the situation untenable as it is that the men's and women's officials are getting put in, and it played out last night in the game I certainly was at. As a result of that, I think there are no behemoths. Granted, Wesleyan Cardinals are undefeated and number one in the D3Hoops.com poll, but I wouldn't say they're perfect. I think they've got their flaws. There are no behemoths in men's basketball. I think it's wide open as a result. So Wisconsin Lutheran losing the MSOE? Yeah, not surprised. And I've been voting that way a little bit. That said, Illinois Wesleyan went 0-2 last week, and some voters barely moved them, which did surprise me a little. Am I surprised they lost in conference? No. Was I surprised they lost twice in conference? Yes, I was. I was surprised they lost twice in conference. Back to other results. Hampden-Sydney was down, had to overcome, I should say, 34 points and 14 rebounds from Guilford's Nick Fahar. Outstanding evening from him, but they won to improve to 20-3 did Hampden-Sydney. They are in dominant position in the ODAC right now. We should point out, if you are not aware, the ODAC did change its conference tournament. They are no longer inviting 12 teams to the big dance, where teams, 5 through 12 play a first-round game and then match up against the top 4 who get a bye in the quarter semis and championships, all in Salem. In both men's and women's basketball now, the top 8 make the tournament, and the quarterfinals are played at the top 4 seeds, and then the semifinals and championship are played in Salem, and they're offset. So I believe I have this correct. Women's semis will be on Friday, championship on Saturday. Men's semifinals will be on Saturday, championship on Sunday. Championship game is at 2 on Sunday. I appreciate that it's been moved up to 2 o'clock. I wish we got rid of Sunday championship games, albeit with a new NPI. Maybe that isn't as big a deal as it has been in the past. The committee still can work on bracketing a little bit longer, so the 2 o'clock move by the ODAC, I certainly applaud. But in case you didn't know that, the ODAC has moved that all up. So that was my segue into talk about that. Christopher Newport defeated Salisbury for the second time in a week. Christopher Newport men certainly playing good basketball. And the top half, because I was at Centennial basketball last night, the top half of the Centennial all won in men's basketball, men's basketball last night, I think. Actually, I say that, and now I just realized, I'm not sure I double-checked that, but it's an interesting Centennial race, to say the least. The battles for 6th place in both conferences is going to come down to the wire, it would appear. On the women's side, Baldwin Wallace continued to play well. Messiah continues to play well. The only one that stumbled was Stout, as River Falls was able to knock them off. Otherwise, for the most part, on Wednesday night, kind of quiet on the women's side. And I never want to say things go by chalk, because we know of conference rivals, and I just said how difficult things can be. But as chalk as chalk can get, with a little bit of dust settling from some upsets. How's that for an analogy? As I spill my coffee on me, and now we're going to have a stain the rest of the day. Wow, how about that? It's a big mug, but apparently I still missed the spot. So you're going to have to deal with a stain the rest of the show, and I apologize now for that, especially as I get to some serious news. Last night, many were watching in the arena. Many were watching live as it took place online. Mitchell was at Dean in men's basketball. And it was a bit of we only got halfway through the game, or through the first half. Unfortunately, medical incident took place. It involved Eddie Volkerts Jr. of Mitchell. We know that from seeing his number during the incident. We have a bit of information on this medical emergency that took place. We are only going to report the facts that we know. We can certainly speculate, but we will do so gently. But what happened was Volkerts collapsed midway through the first half during a stoppage in play for a free throw or free throws. I actually can't remember if it was 1 or 2. Dean was going to the line, so he was on the baseline in that moment. We are going to show video from the live stream of that once. I caution anybody who may be reactive to this. I don't think it's graphic. We're not going to show the entire thing, but we will show how it played out and then move on to a statement from Mitchell. Here it is, 10 and a half minutes left to go. Apologies, there is audio. I'm going to try and kill said audio. I did not mean to keep that up and running. Oh, I think Nope, there it already happened and froze, so we're good to go. We don't have to worry about the audio. You saw it play out, and you saw him start to fall. Here's what Mitchell's college statement is to the public. At approximately 7:24 p.m. on Wednesday, February 12, 2025, during the first half of a game at Dean College, a Mitchell College men's basketball player collapsed on the court. Medical personnel immediately responded, administering medical care. He was taken to a local hospital. The remainder of the game was postponed. Mitchell College President Tracy Y. Espy said Mitchell is grateful for the swift response and handling of the incident by the Dean College sports medicine team. No additional information is available at this time. Here's what we know. Again, a medical emergency took place. He was taken to the hospital. This has happened many a time in basketball. It is unfortunately one of those occasions that has taken place. The most famous, if you know basketball history, may be the Hank Gathers situation, which took place on live television. Unfortunately for Hank Gathers, it did not end well. He later died at the hospital, I believe. He suffered a cardiac arrest in the moment. We certainly wish nothing but the best for Volkerts. My sources indicate that he is at the hospital and things are okay, relatively speaking. I don't know what the long-term ramifications of this are. The game was postponed. I assume they'll make it up. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just deem that this is not necessary to make up. We'll see how the Mitchell team responds. Hats off to the Dean medical team, as stated in that press release from Mitchell. Someone obviously responded. I would suspect that it's an athletic trainer to start. There usually, a lot of schools will have further medical teams available or maybe nearby, but I don't think an ambulance is required at basketball games like they are on football and lacrosse. And he got to the hospital. By everything we know, he's alive. We don't have anything worse than that, but we don't have anything official to say how he's doing, what the prognosis is, what exactly happened. I have covered these stories in my news experience over the years, and they run the gamut. I was talking to somebody today about the fact that they know of an athlete who it was a freak occurrence. Everything was fine. Their body is fine. It just happened. They don't know why that happened in that particular situation. He couldn't play sports anymore. That came to an end, but he could carry on his life. That was that individual. My son goes to a school where a famous incident happened in a lacrosse game that has made a lot of news, where a defender got hit with the ball. The moment between heartbeats, at the exact millisecond that would cause the heart to stop, the ball hit him square in the chest, pretty much at the heart. He keeled over, was resuscitated thanks to an AED, and is alive today to tell his story. And they have a foundation to get AEDs in every place possible, especially in the high school and middle school worlds. We have the Hank Gathers story comes up. We have heard many a story about suddenly an unknown enlarged heart, an unknown faulty valve, an unknown problem with the circulatory system. No idea what happened here last night. We wish nothing but the best to Eddie Volkerts, and we hope he will recover just fine from this, that the Mitchell team will be okay, the Dean team will be okay. And again, hats off to the medical team for their quick response, and clearly, I would argue, completely without any other information, life-saving techniques to make sure Eddie Volkerts is still with us. If we get more information during the show, and it's reportable, we will do so. Otherwise, we will see where this takes us. But our thoughts are with the family, the team, the school, the community, and everybody else. With that, we'll take a break. When we come back, we will start talking to our guests, and we've started off heading up to talk Red Dragons women's basketball with Colleen Ames. Looking forward to our conversations today. If you want to interact with us, please do so. We would love to hear from you, and we would love to answer your questions if we can, right? You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops from the Hoopsville Studios Back with more after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit nabc.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's nabc.com or NABC1927 on social media.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you are well. By the way, if you're still experiencing a lip sync issue on the video, let me know. We did uninstall and reinstall our software to just make sure that wasn't the problem. We don't think it is, but you never know in this world of technology. If it's further down the road, then we're going to have to keep chasing it. Hopefully, we'll have some time over the weekend to do some testing. But let me know, because maybe we reinstalled the software and everything's working fine now. And that would be good to know. But apparently last show we were about a second off. And what's weird is the video's ahead of the audio. That's not normally how this works. Usually audio is always ahead of video, so I'm even more confused. If you got questions for us, you want to interact with us, social media information at the bottom of your screen. For those of you on the podcast, I hope you know it, but you can always email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. We'll keep an eye on the emails as well in case anybody sends one in. All right, let's talk. Today's theme is really about maybe there are some teams that are a bit underrated out there. It is hard on the women's side to crack into the top 25, admittedly, because there's been so much dominance on the top end. But the parity has started to get into women's basketball as well, and we're starting to see much better teams, maybe not even in the top 25, who maybe deserve some attention, a look-see, maybe a little bit more in the voting side of things. This first team's getting votes. They're just not there yet, though they're having an absolutely bang-up season, to say the least. I would argue that maybe they're having one of their better seasons in program history. Upstate New York has been socked with snow, at least some parts, but they can still get out of Cortland to play some basketball. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk all about it is the women's coach from Cortland. It is Colleen Ames. And Coach, first and foremost, thanks for taking the time out of a busy Thursday, I'm sure, to join us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we'll ruin the excitement, I'm sure, at some point here. Let's talk about this team so far. At this point in the season, you're 18-3 overall, 13-1 in conference action. Your 3 losses date back to the first game of the season, which was a loss to who we know is a damn good team, the Scranton Royals, 69-48. Another loss to Rochester to start January, 91-81. Rochester, maybe one you'd love to get back. New Paltz did trip you up, but we've got a chance to revenge that. We'll get to that in a minute. Talk to me overall, though. 18-3 after an 18-8 campaign last year and 2 back-to-back 20-win seasons after COVID. What's this season been like? Has it met expectations?
The thing about going into the season is that we didn't really have a lot of expectations. We have a ridiculously young team, a brand new team. Even though we brought a lot of people back after last season, our starting lineup is very different comparatively. We also have 7 freshmen, 2 transfers, so 9 newcomers. We have a pretty large roster. So we've been focusing a lot on the process and doing things the right way. So the only expectation is to just have high standards, and I think that we've been meeting that pretty consistently.
Curious, what does it mean to be right way?
Hard work, follow our principles, high energy. I tell the girls all the time that we're never going to play a game where we get outworked. We may get outplayed, we may get out-talented, but we're never going to be the team that gets outworked.
Fair. Makes sense. One of the notes you notice off this team is the leading scorers are both sophomores. They're both transfers, and Kayla Campbell, who came from D2 Damon, and you have Jolene Lusk, who was a freshman last year. Interesting enough, at St. John Fisher. Would love to know that story, but that isn't a dynamic I think we're very accustomed. We're accustomed a little bit to the transfers, and we're getting used to that a little bit, though I think it's going to calm down a bit. We're not used to the transfers being sophomores and coming in and making a direct impact. What's that dynamic like?
Well, Kayla Campbell was a redshirt freshman, so she's in her junior year academically. She played 1 year at Damon. She's a kid I recruited out of high school when I was at Mount St. Mary, so I have a good relationship with her and her family. I coached her sister, Marissa, her twin sister, Marissa, when I was at Mount St. Mary. So her coming in was she decided late about May. She just wanted to make an impact, and obviously she's doing that for us. Jolene losing her coach at St. John Fisher, her coach moving over to RIT. She wanted a change of scenery, and she wanted to go to a school that was a good fit for her. I hit her up as soon as she entered the portal because I thought she'd be great for us. And she actually took a really long time to make a decision. She didn't end up deciding to come to us until July. But Coach Kuberka did an amazing job laying the groundwork with Jolene, and I think we're barely touching the surface of what Jo can really do basketball-wise.
That's a fascinating statement to say. By the way, Mount St. Mary, don't worry, we won't hold that against you. I know the school well. It's obviously worked out nicely, but you have to play the dynamic, right, of the players who have been there a while too. Is this, to some extent, and I see this a lot heck, I've dealt with it with my son to some degree as well. You cannot expect from season to season that you're just going to keep the role you had and or move up if someone else comes along. How's it like to balance that ego battle / that understanding? And admittedly, I think it women's basketball, that's its strength. Women's athletes in general, I think you guys all figure it out better than men. But what is it like to balance that dynamic?
Well, you use the word ego, and that's essentially something we're trying to eliminate. I think the culture that we created is that we want to see this program do as well as it possibly can. And as difficult as it may be, that might involve you and it might not. I think that for the most part, our team understands that and handles it really well. The thing that I think makes us so good is that we have a lot of depth of talent. So if it's not your day, it's going to be somebody else's day. And we have that desire to see our teammates be successful. And we understand that we're all working towards the same goal. So whoever's going to show up on that day, whoever's day it's going to be, I think that we handle it well. And it doesn't bruise our ego, because the ego is for Cortland women's basketball. It's not for the individual. So I think that creating a culture that allows that to happen is where it starts.
Yeah, getting people to buy in is a big deal. And obviously it's working. Again, 3 losses on the season. Shout out to Fran, who points out that the loss to Scranton is one of their closest games all season. It was the opener. It's something to say it's a close game and you lost by 21. But that's just showing how good Scranton has been this season. I don't know if you learn anything from the Scranton one being the first one out of the gate, but the Rochester one, I'm sure you're a little peeved about. What have you learned from those 2 games in particular?
The first game of the season versus Scranton, we were scared. We came out scared. We came out like we had a bunch of sophomores in the starting lineup, and the game started on a tech, so an administrative technical. So we shot a free throw, made it, and then couldn't make a layup for the next 8 minutes of play. We were just really scared, and first game back was just a lot for us. Brand new team,
Yeah.
And then we played them even for 2 quarters. For the second and third quarter, we played them very even, but we couldn't break that 14-point deficit. It was 15-1, and we just couldn't break that deficit. But, it was great. We went into the game knowing that Scranton was really good, and we knew it was going to be a difficult game. So the goal was to compete. It wasn't about to win. It wasn't about the outcome. It was about stay competitive the whole time, no matter what the scoreboard says. And I think that we did that. And Scranton is unreal. They're really good. They're incredibly deep. There's no drop off from the first 5 to the next 5. And they're just really talented. So the Rochester loss kind of hurts. We played a nearly perfect game of basketball offensively. We turned the ball over single-digit times. We shot the ball really well. We had a lot of assists on our percentage of made field goals were assisted. We played really well. Rochester shot 52% from 3 at home, and that makes things really difficult. We went into the game saying they shoot the ball really well from the perimeter, and if they shoot lights out, it's going to be a difficult game to win, and then they did. It also hurts that game was on my birthday, and my former assistant coach is the new assistant coach at Rochester, so that was a tough day. But the girls, we had to take it with what it was. We played the way we needed to play. Rochester just played better that day.
So you tell me the Rochester team did not get the memo that they were to roll over on your birthday.
I know, it's messed up.
You go into conference play. Your one loss so far has been your alma mater in SUNY New Paltz. Again, you've got the quote-unquote revenge game coming up. I am sure that got circled on the calendar. Toot sweet. That game with them will be played on the 15th. Basically, Saturday. You've got Oneonta at your place tomorrow, Friday, for anybody who's tuned into the podcast. The 14th, you'll celebrate Valentine's Day on that. A little concerned about how the birthday went, Coach, on how Valentine's Day might go. But you got New Paltz on Saturday. But to that point, how do you not make sure that this team isn't overlooking Oneonta and staring at New Paltz on Saturday going, hey, that's our big game. That's what I'm focused on. Oneonta, 10 and 12, 7 and 8, no big deal.
when we played Oneonta, we only won by 7. It was the day after we played New Paltz the first time. We were feeling bad for ourselves and we were not ready to go. We also had our starters play major minutes that Friday night leading into Saturday, and we were gassed emotionally and physically. We're not taking Oneonta light at all. They're a senior heavy team. They're vying for that playoff spot. They lost a couple bad games that they shouldn't have lost, and they're going to be desperation play. They're playing for something. Us not having a senior, that makes it difficult for us to kind of push through and find that, it's almost over type mentality. And Oneonta is going to have that. So we're not overlooking them at all. I think that having Oneonta first is honestly a great way to set us up to play New Paltz on Saturday.
Great way of looking at it, certainly. And I can appreciate that the 7-point win is a good way of remembering you got to play everybody. And we should point out, yes, play on weekends here in the SUNYAC currently. We also should quickly point out you did have a game with Fredonia on the 21st of January. They got made up on the 4th, but you've had a week off since the Morrisville State game. And then you'll finish with Oswego and Canton on the road on a tough road trip, but granted from Cortland, you guys are about the best positioned of anybody. One thing I kind of skipped over inadvertently, and I want to jump back to, and then we'll talk more about the conference, is you're in your first year as well. So it's really to get everybody to buy in with a brand new head coach and all of that dynamic is certainly a big deal. How has that transition been? We should point out you were at, it was Clarkson last? Well, you were an interim head coach at Clarkson. Mm-hmm. You were at Mount St. Mary's, you point out, prior to that. You've been a New York gal most of this. What's the dynamic been like for you just transitioning into the Cortland way? Probably helped that the football team won a national championship recently.
Yeah. This is this season's my second season at Cortland, and
second. Okay, I miscounted. Okay.
Yeah, but this is the first year that we've had my recruits here.
Right. Fair.
Being at Cortland is. I find myself very fortunate. This place is so supportive, and the athletic department really cares about their coaches and cares about their teams doing well. The school as a whole cares about athletics, so that's really nice too. I don't know. I mean, the buy-in from the girls is we're trying to compete for a national championship. Because football did it, it's something that everybody wants. It's something that everybody talks about. It's something that everybody works for. We don't think that we're close, but we want to be in the conversation, and that's what we're working towards. So, we look at our statistics, we look at what we do defensively more so than anything else, because if you look at the national championship, the national tournament last year, the games were super low scoring. The games were all in the 50s, some in the 40s, and we understand that it's going to take a really good defensive effort to get that done, so that's what we focus on. We look at our statistics and we're in the top 30-ish in a few categories defensively, and so we tell the girls that we're close, but we're not there yet, and that's I think that's where the buy-in comes from. It's like they want to be in that top 25, they want to be in that national conversation, and we know we're doing things well, but we just have to do them a little bit better in order to get to that next level of competitive at the national level.
By the way, my reading comprehension is clearly shot. I didn't have enough coffee because Fran did a great job on your bio. It says, Colleen Ames enters her second season. The next sentence says, in her first season. Mr. Brain up here went, in her first season. Comprehension apparently not my strong suit today. Listen, what's interesting is in your 2 years already, you've seen different SUNYAC. Geneseo and Brockport, bye-bye. Right? No. Do I have that right? I know it's Geneseo. Yeah. I always forget the second one. Brockport, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Making sure the comprehension's working on this matinee. So they're gone. They've joined a different conference, which kind of surprised everyone. Morrisville State is now in. There may be more additions coming, but your alma mater's saying see ya and joining the NJAC, which was rumored, but we never thought it was really going to happen. Well, it happened. It's a crazy dynamic in Cortland. I hate to say it. You are best positioned. I'm a little surprised Geneseo and Brockport left for travel reasons, but for you as a coach, You come in, it's one conference. Your second year, it's another. Your third's going to be a different one on top of that. That's a lot of moving parts you're constantly adjusting to. What's that been like?
I feel like I'm trying just to not to care about it. You know, we play who we play, and we want to compete against the people that we play against. And, you know, the ability to create your own non-conference schedule to compete against the teams that you want to makes it more fun, you know. The missing that rivalry with New Paltz when they do leave, like I'll miss that fun competition thing. But you know, the league is the league, and you try to win as many games as you can. And you know, I want to cut down nets and win conference championships, but at the end of the day, I want to be in the national conversation. You know, I don't think we're near competing with NYU, but I want to be up there with them. And it doesn't matter what conference you're in. You just need to do things a specific way. You need to compete at a specific level. And just focusing on what we can control.
Yeah, we saw New Paltz out in Vegas this year at the D3Hoops.com Classic. Good team, as you know. I'm a little disappointed they're leaving, but I do realize they're on the fringe of the travel, as it were, and have been for a number of years. So I get it to some extent. Honestly, the Geneseo and Brockport ones are the ones that threw me. You're relatively in the same area as Geneseo in the state of New York, centrally located, so that did kind of surprise me. When you look forward, obviously you talk defense, you talk about what you guys want to accomplish. The conference title, regular season, is not locked up, but it's within reach, which best positions you for the tournament, which best positions you likely to be still playing in March. I know I'm getting ahead of where you want to be. You're focused on this weekend. But how much is that conversation at least taking place to understand the dynamics at play and why even the Oneonta game is important?
Well, you know, we're with the new rankings, with the net rankings, I think we're either 33 or 35 in those rankings. So we're towards the top. You know, we're in a good spot. So the problem is that every time we've been presented with a challenge, Scranton, Rochester, the New Paltz game the first time, we haven't come out on top. So this weekend is telling if we're going to be able to compete and have success against these two, you know, big games, quote unquote. Then we'll be able to see if we are at the level that we want to compete well into March. You know, we're talking about hosting NCAA potentially, and I'm like, I can't say that we would host this third and fourth rounds because I don't know what our competitive character is yet. You know, we need to continue to compete and win games that have a little bit of stress around them if we want to be in that conversation, and we just haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. This weekend is telling to see if we can, and we do have the competitive character that will compete at the national level.
You're sitting, according to the NPI numbers run by the D3 Datacast guys today, 34th, with a 5.766. Top 16 host, you're a couple points out of that position. But, man, a lot changes. You play New Paltz, that's going to change your numbers, and everybody changes your numbers. So who knows where that those dynamics will change as time goes on. Coach, I appreciate the insight. Appreciate the to get a sense of what's going on, as it were, in that neck of the woods and what you're doing in conference play. Hats off on the season. 18-3 with losses at least to Scranton and New Paltz is nothing to sneeze at all. That's a dynamic season. I know more is expected, so we wish you all the best with that, and good luck to the team. What's scary about your team is those two best players are sophomores in terms of eligibility. Whether they stay there for all the next two seasons, we'll see. I know you're pushing hard, but in the meantime, we always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
I just want to shout out the support that I have. I have an incredible staff. Maddie Shea has been working really hard, and she makes our players better. My husband is on staff, and he is incredibly supportive, so shout out to him too. And I want to give a quick shout out to Greg Flynn, my high school coach, my AAU coach, still coaches Long Island Lightning. I would not be where I am without him, and I really appreciate everything that he's done.
That's cool. I like that shout out. I mean, that one to the husband. No, I'm kidding. The coach one, that is a cool one. Coach, take care of yourself. Safe travels when you do hit the road. Good luck the rest of the way, especially this weekend at home. We'll look forward to catching up with the Red Dragons down the road.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thank you, Coach. Colleen Ames joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline again. They're having a bang-up season. Keep an eye on them. A win over New Paltz this weekend, I think it'd be hard to argue they're not at least worthy of a low top 25 or more votes in the very least, but it'll do a lot for them in terms of NCAA tournament potential. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue talking women's basketball. We'll stay in Region 3, interesting enough, and we'll stay in New York. We'll go to Merchant Marine to talk about what is another dynamic and out-of-the-blue team. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important. But as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro. That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Welcome back to Hoopsville there. Sorry about the pause. I was trying to get a tweet out the door and I couldn't hit copy paste fast enough. If you got questions for us, which meant I just sent out the tweet without a darn picture of our head coach coming up next. Oh well. If you got questions for us, you can always interact with us on social medias. Look for us at D3Hoopsville. A couple of them are just Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. That information at the bottom of your screen. Of course, our streaming partners and all that. We're live simulcasting on YouTube and Facebook. Though no interactions there as of yet that I can see, but we're here for it. We're going to make an interesting segue that was completely unintentional, but just happened to stumble into our way. We just got done talking to Colleen Ames at Cortland. Of course, she mentioned she had been at Mount St. Mary prior to coming to Cortland. We're now in that conference, and we've stayed in New York, though we've gone down to the absolute extreme lower corner onto the extreme western northern side of Long Island. Merchant Marine is having a tremendous season, and it started thanks to an interim head coach. Now, I know normally an interim head coach is all fired up, and they're ready to do dynamic things with their program, but they deal with what they've been handed. And Alexis Shields, a TCNJ grad, we should point out, was handed a pretty darn good team who was 18-8 last year, 13-5 in conference action after previous 20-win seasons themselves. They're 21-1 now. They're 18-0 in the Skyline, playing really good basketball. Admittedly, I'm surprised they're not getting more top 25 attention, but as we mentioned prior, that's not easy to get. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk all about it is the former interim head coach, now full head coach of the Merchant Marine women's basketball program, Alexis Shields. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I appreciate it.
We should point out the interim tag, in my opinion, didn't get taken down fast enough the way this season started. But it certainly helps to have the season you all did have to get that interim tag removed. Toot sweet. What's this season been like in your world in general, considering you take over a program that was, listen, for a long time, very well coached, very, very strong, very positive with Matt Dempsey in charge. You take over in the offseason as an interim, which can put you in a tough spot, and you go out and kill it. That's got to be incredible.
It's been a wild year. Again, we were able to kind of hit the ground running, which has been awesome. Again, shout out to Matt for his tutelage for the past 16 years up until this point. Yeah. So it's literally been wild. It's been coming, pretty quick. Luckily for us and for me specifically, I've had the opportunity to, I know these girls, recruited these girls, being in an academy is a different animal sometimes with the recruiting aspect or just the day-to-day. I listened a little bit to what Colleen was saying before. Our kids, their schedules are pretty chock full. But sometimes we don't even know who we're playing on that day. They're just so worried about, other things that are going on. Yeah. So that's kind of been a way that we've kind of kept the stress off of, new coach, new plan. They've really bought in. I'm a familiar face, just a different chair this time. So, things have been going pretty well for us. We're just trying to stay healthy, knock on wood, and, continue to have success.
We talked about the dynamic, but for those who aren't familiar, I work at Navy as a backup broadcaster and announcer, so I know the dynamics there. We talk about NIL, and Navy just kind of scoffs at everybody. We just talked about Colleen talking about getting transfers as a sophomore. That's not exactly something that just happens at the Merchant Marine. There's a lot of dynamics in play, including congressional assistance to get somebody into the school in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the only people that transfer to our school or transfer out.
Fair.
We don't have that option. We can recruit nationally, which is I think a definite advantage compared to maybe some other schools even within our conference. You're looking at, top of the top players, top of the top athletes. But more importantly, it's academics. So I'm looking at, have you taken physics? Have you taken calculus versus, how many points a game you're scoring? Do you have any medical issues, that type of thing, that I'm sure not a lot of other coaches are dealing with, to some extent. But, it just takes a special kind of a kid that kind of wants this environment. You know, we're in the maritime industry. These kids do very well when they graduate from here. It helps us, you know, the big four, Coast Guard, Navy, Army, Air Force. There's obviously a lot of name recognition there. So we're kind of the fifth. But I see a lot of those coaches out on the road. We're essentially looking for the same type of kids. But we've gotten, you know, pretty lucky with really good people. I think then we go out on the road and you want people first, people that want to kind of buy into this program. It's not easy. You know, our kids are up at sometimes 5, 6 in the morning. They have to go to class. It's not an option. Normal college, it's a little bit more, maybe sometimes an option. Not here. And their day is full by the time they get here. And, you know, our schedules are a little bit different, but they're tough kids. They are, you know, really the kind of people that they do well after here because they're just so used to being on all the time. So basketball is kind of an outlet for them. And we're fortunate that, you know, they chose here.
Yeah, I certainly knew a lot about the Merchant Marine when it was in the Landmark Conference. It was this school that replaced Stevens at the last minute before the conference was announced. It's a whole story, folks. That's fascinating. So I understood that dynamic at play, certainly. And listen, we should point out also, it's not like you've got your own unique hook on recruiting if you want to get somebody who's interested in the Merchant Marine. There's Maine Maritime. There's Mass Maritime. There's SUNY Maritime.
Yep.
Heck, SUNY Maritime is literally across the bay from all of you. There's a lot of others, not a lot of others, but there's others out there that are, well, maybe not SUNY Maritime in terms of women's basketball. They are struggling to try and get that program
right.
Cal
Maritime, yeah.
Yeah, there's others that are going to make, in Maine Maritime is probably your biggest competitor, but there are others that make it more interesting. What's the usual, not to try and give away your secrets, but what's the usual hook you try and throw out there to get someone interested?
Well, it all depends, to be honest. There's not I mean, there's a lot of pitfalls that have, you know, come across us over the years. And I tried to, you know, kind of learn and fine tune it. You know, I wish there was some sort of magical, you know, thing that we could say that works, but it's really just dependent upon, do you want something that's a little bit different than your normal college experience? Do you want a high academic school, 100% job placement when you get out of here? And, you know, as a 17, 18-year-old kid, sometimes that's not at the forefront. Fair. So, you know, we'll chat about that. Do you want to travel? Our kids, you know, our kids are on ships 8 months going into their senior year.
Yep.
So, you know, my starting point guard didn't get off the ship until November. And, you know, they have to work probably twice as hard to get in shape before, you know, the season begins. So you're going to have a very unique opportunity here that maybe, you know, you won't get at another college. Your school's paid for. That's another bonus that, you know, parents aren't on the hook for that, which is nice. And you come out of here and you're making a ton of money. These kids are making sometimes over, you know, well into the $100,000 range. And that's nice, right? When colleges keep going up and up, and here we are offering 100% job placement. And, you know, so that's really like career focused versus just, if you want just the basketball school, this won't be it. If you want full, you know, Division III experience, this gives you a great opportunity to have that. Fair.
Quick side note. I know over the years it's always been wondering when there's a government shutdown and all how it affects the Merchant Marine. There's institutions like Navy whose athletics are actually outside of the Naval Academy. It's its own private organization, so it doesn't impact athletics, whereas Army and Air Force over the years were part of the organizations, were directly impacted on shutdowns. That is changing at those institutions. Merchant Marine in 2013 couldn't go to some games during a government shutdown. We did clarify through you and Joe beforehand, your SID. That has changed. Does that take the pressure off when there's conversations like government shutdowns that we seem to have on a semi-unfortunate regular basis now?
Sure. I mean, you know, there's always like, you know, things to worry about, but fortunately we have a lot of advocates for our school and kind of our mission and what we're trying to do. So I kind of leave that to the people that are well above my pay grade.
Sure.
But fortunately for, you know, for us and for all the students out there, and for other teams that are playing us for that matter, you know, we're pretty solid with kind of the mission here and kind of what we're trying to do. And they try not to throw off, you know, the day-to-day schedules or the, you know, contracts that we have with other teams. So we've been pretty fortunate over I would say the past few years to kind of be in that safe, essential worker range.
So that's the dynamic we're all talking about now with your program, and which I think makes the season stand out even more. Some of the stats I got from you guys, I knew you were having a good season, but some of these things jumped off the page at me. First off, 20-game winning streak. That is the longest in program history. The previous was 14 back in the 22-23 season. I didn't realize, I just kind of got used to having some good seasons under Dempsey that I thought 20 wins had been something that had been done. Off to the best start in 25-year history. Their lone loss, as we will talk about momentarily, is to NYU, kind of like Colleen Ames. Their first loss was to Scranton. Some of these are understandable. Let's see. Set a program record with consecutive wins with 15 against Yeshiva. You've clinched number 1 in the Skyline tournament already. 18 conference wins is the most in a single season. 17 had been prior. Granted, the conference has evolved a little bit. Those alone, and there's still some more we're going to talk about. That is stunning to me because I know Merchant Marine women's basketball has had its moments where it's been pretty darn good. But you're on another level right now in terms of wins and success. Has that sunk in?
No. I mean, I seek advice sometimes. Well, I would say a lot, actually. I seek advice. And every coach that I've heard, whether it's head coach, assistant coach, they're all like, try to enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
And I am trying to like live in the moment and be, as focused as I can on the present. I tend to try to plan as much as I possibly can. To be honest, I learned a lot from Matt when it came to that, just to be prepared and, to be ready for, what's upcoming. But it's been, look, we have a lot of really good leadership on our team. We're pretty, we have good seniors that have been battle tested. Even this season, we've had, a couple overtime games. So I think it says a lot about our team, our players and, kind of their commitment to the buy-in of the season. And, we don't talk about records or we don't talk about, streaks, that kind of stuff. We leave that to kind of Joe and in our SID department. But, the original goal when I said in the beginning of the season to the team, I said, if we're in the gym and you can see, there's banners up for a bunch of different teams there. And I'm like, there's one thing that we have not yet accomplished. And I said, every game we take it day by day. But there's one thing, we've been to the NCAA tournament now 3 times, and that was kind of our goal. We've never won in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. And you play teams like an NYU, those are the teams that you will see very quickly in the tournament. So those are the teams, if you want to be in the conversation, that you need to, measure yourself against. So, those days that you're kind of droning on in the, January and February, like, well, what are you going to be? Are you going to bring your best effort? Day in and day out in practice? Are you taking possessions off? And I would say that pretty good leadership with our team that they're not. We've had, everybody has their moments, and luckily, knock on wood, and I don't want to say anything out loud because then it's going to throw off the juju. But, the health of the team is big. You got to have good vibes. We try to keep it as positive as possible. There's good days, there's bad days, there's days you kind of have to push through. But I always remember, my grandfather at one point said, he said it about working out. He's like, there's 2 times you need to work out, when you feel like it and when you don't. So there's, it's 2 times that you want to practice, or when you feel like it and when you don't, and you bring that same energy every day. And, our juice of the week, that's been big. Our team, and we have a lot of players that really bought into that, to bring the juice, we call it, bring a lot of energy. And we're thankful that kind of, that's where you are. What's happening now, like on the wins and losses, I think is a product of what you're putting in. We had players even on ships that were running a ton, that were trying to stay in the best possible shape. We have players that come in and, shoot a ton, and they're a product of that as well. So you're going to get in what you put out, and they've been doing a really good job, bringing it every day in practice.
Had a few overtime games, by the way. That'll certainly help strengthen the resilience, as it were. First game out of the gate, you beat Baruch on the road in overtime. You beat Manhattanville in the beginning of the December start at home in overtime. You beat Mount St. Mary in overtime at home by 3. Yes, lost to NYU by 31, but NYU's beating the snot out of everybody. To your point, though, the Mount St. Mary game in early December, you've got the rematch coming up on Saturday I know you don't have to psych the team up to understand the dynamics at play, but it's on the road. And if there was a tripping hazard, as there are many on a ship, this would be it.
Sure. They're on a 8 or 9 game winning streak. They're playing well. Marion's done a really good job up there. It's their senior night also. So, there's a lot of factors where it's a, afternoon game. So actually for us, that generally bodes well because our kids are up so early.
Fair.
But, every game in front of you is an important game, and especially conference games. You don't take anyone lightly. The scouting report doesn't necessarily change from necessarily the first time, but they're playing with a ton of confidence. And, those are the teams, like you said, that can trip you up and that are disruptors. So, we're going to try to put our best effort forward and then realize that this is getting you ready for, hopefully the playoff run. And let's see what happens.
Talking about some of these players, Carolee Barton got 13 double-doubles. She's 7th in the country in rebounds per game at 13.2. She is part of a team that, this number staggers to me, tops in the nation in rebounding margin, plus 21.4. I love rebounding, but that's an insane number, and she's got insane numbers to boot with that.
Mm-hmm. Wow, where to start with Carolee? First of all, wonderful person. She is what you want to coach. She's kind. She is really thoughtful, actually, very deeper than I expected. Freshman year at any academy is incredibly difficult. Yeah. So we're working on, you got to chat about things and not let things, kind of get to you on the basketball court. I don't remember saying a better, we've had some pretty good post players with Lauren Hunter over the years, Taylor Hightower. We've had some great kids that have come in and, really helped our team. She's right up there. She has had incredible coaching from her high school, St. John's College. So she came in, a beast. And she's lost. She's really worked on her fitness. She's lost some weight a little bit. And I know that's a, interesting conversation with women, but when you come into the military, you're looking at, that's kind of what it is here with physical fitness standards. She has done an incredible job bringing energy to our practices. She's really good with how she sees the court. Things that we don't even have to tell her. She's worked a little bit on her post moves, with our coaching staff. She is just an absolute pleasure. She doesn't talk back. She's just I would say fairly easy to coach. You tell her one little thing, hey, adjust this a little bit, pump her up. She's a beast on the rebounds. Sometimes, I'll have to chat with the referees. I'm like, don't try to penalize this kid because she's just killing it. She makes free throws. She has a great 10 to 15 foot shot. Again, we just got to keep her healthy and, academically like anybody else here at the academy. But she gets up for every game, and she's been an absolute pleasure to coach.
Quick note, St. John's College is where she went. It's a private school in Annapolis, Maryland. It is literally next door to the Naval Academy. They are across the street from each other. I know it very well. So I am not surprised by some interest in what she's doing, but also that she's got that kind of mentality. What jumps out at me is it is incredible to have a player who's averaging a double-double as she is. 14.8 points a game, 13 rebounds a game. You have 2. Because Emily Grassler is averaging 15.1 points a game and 10.1 boards a contest. She's got 10 double-doubles this season. Stop it.
Well, I have to say, so Emily did a great job last year. She was rookie of the year in our conference, and she came from a high school where she played a little bit more on the perimeter. So, she was down, under the basket a little bit more last season. She did a great job kind of fine-tuning that aspect of her game, and she's been great. She is probably Emily Grassler, is any coach in our department is telling me. I see Emily Grassler out at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., running, bleachers, doing workouts, shooting. So she is probably one of the hardest workers on our team, and she has absolutely bought in. And, she creates a lot of, defensive strategies, I would say, amongst other teams when we're playing. We have a two-way street there where, they open up, our post players open a lot for our, out of, on the perimeter shooting. And then they're going to work inside. So, and they've been working well together, both Carolee and Emily. So, look, we're really fortunate. They're tough kids too. Emily's a really tough kid. She's been a pleasure to coach as well. And you're looking at young, right? Freshmen and sophomore. So, if we can kind of keep them healthy, that's a nice problem to have. And then, hopefully we can get some, we have 5 seniors, right? So we're looking at some reloading with our guards around the outside, but we just have like support from everybody else. We have support from our guards on the inside. We're always looking to try to get it into Emily and CC, and they're working as hard as they possibly can to get open. So it makes sometimes their job a little bit easier. But yeah, I don't hate it having 2 great posts.
You must be in my head because you literally said some things that were about to come out. You have 5 seniors, but those 2 are young, freshman and sophomore, respectfully. Mm-hmm. Hannah Ramsden's third on the team in double figures at 10.1 points a game, 5.5 rebounds. She's a junior. You will lose Kara Winstead, who is the all-time assist leader at the school, 5.1 assists per game this year. You talked about coming off the boat. Essentially, we've heard that story at Merchant Marine on a number of occasions. Your best player is unavailable the opening stanza of the season because they're getting into shape and getting back into life at the academy after being on a boat for so long. So you lose her. That's not going to be easy to make up. You talk about the guard play, but it's a little scary. You've got that inside presence and off forward, let's say a 3 maybe in Ramsden at 5'9". That's a heck of, if you got to only replace the guards around that for next season, that's something I'd like to have.
I know. The point guard position is an incredibly important position. Kyra does a great job running our offense and just being very vocal, and she's been vocal since day one on campus. I never have to say we can't hear you to her. She's been great. So, and I think our team feels very comfortable with her, and they feel, she does a pretty good job leading with our offenses and timeouts and whatever we happen to be in. So she's a great liaison between the coaching staff and the rest of the team. But yeah, that's going to be, we'll be young in that position a little bit next year, but we're losing Grace Jackson, a long 3 that we've had, and she's been, an incredible asset, not only leadership wise, but just as a person. Abby Stramsky, probably one of the toughest kids that we have. She's going Marine Corps after this. And then we have, Jalen Douglas had some knee injuries, and then Mackenzie Cassingham, who's been coming on strong the past couple games. So, we have a great group. I can't say enough about, this group. Obviously, when you play sports, you give up a lot of your, your social life and, that kind of aspect. And they've done it, willingly. They've done a good job kind of policing, the younger ones and being the mom figure. Sometimes is what you need here at the academy. But, kind of the basketball aspect, they've been able to be, really good leaders on the court that could kind of set the standard for, upcoming classes. And I couldn't be more proud of them.
Darn impressive. There's so much more I could talk to you about. Your TCNJ background, your success from the NJAC, now head coach at the Merchant Marine, but also the program. But we are out of time. I know you got better things to do. You got to get ready for a big game coming up and all of that. So we'll get you on certainly another time to dive in deep because it's fascinating. I've always been fascinated with the Merchant Marine, and I'm loving to see the success that you all are having. So thanks for finding time to join us. Thanks for talking about this team. I hope we're seeing you in March, and I hope you all get that first win as well, because that, I know for the program, will be huge to build on into the coming years as well. In the meantime, they always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those tuned in?
Similar to, a lot of other people, it takes a village here. So I appreciate, our athletic training staff, our coaches. Thanks to Matt for his tutelage over the years. Thanks to our athletic director for changing it to interim to official head coach and, giving me the opportunity. So, that doesn't happen everywhere. Right. So,
right.
I'm super
Colleen
thankful.
Would know.
And yeah, exactly. And I appreciate the opportunity to let our school shine on the show. So thanks for having us on.
Well, thank you, Alexa. Congratulations again.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. And good luck the rest of the way. We'll look forward to catching up with you on another show.
All right. Thanks so much, Dave.
Alexa Shield joining us from the Merchant Marine. Absolutely stellar season. By the way, first time they've ever received even votes in the D3Hoops.com Top 25. Considering how successful Matt Dempsey was with this program and the successful years they had, back-to-back 21 seasons before he retired, this is incredible. And look forward. I really hope they get that first win. Maybe we'll see how they shake out with the brackets and stuff, but I can't imagine they won't get that opportunity and have a legit chance to get that and maybe even a second. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll switch to men's basketball. Where are we headed? I think we're headed to Belhaven, in fact. We'll talk about the Blazers. Do you know anything about Belhaven? You will, coming up. You're listening to Hoopsville. Back with more after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
I believe sportsmanship is a mutual admiration and respect for your fellow competitors. We all go through a lot to reach the point where we compete against one another. It's important to realize that. So once we're finally on the field or on the court or on the starting block, we look at each other as fellow human beings and not just competitors. Being able to recognize the hard work that other athletes are putting in creates a more positive and inclusive environment.
Allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
We are calling you, all of you. We are calling all Division III schools to join our cause.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
Comprehensive learning is being able to adapt to experiences and apply the things that I learned. Being an athlete and juggling academics helped me grow as a person, and things that I've learned, I was able to apply it in another field, putting them into everyday life. Developing comprehensive learning helped me prioritize certain things to make sure I get to where I want to be.
For the love of the game, but for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Just getting a tweet out the door, as it were. about our next guest. If you've got questions for us, follow us on the socials. Interact with us on the socials. Interact with us on email. You can email us all the time if you'd like. Just hoopsville at d3sports.com. Right there at the bottom of your screen if you're watching us live or watching the archive of the show. Even if you are watching an archive, send questions or ideas or whatever you'd like our way. Apparently there's a debate online right now, but which school's the closest in terms of distance? WashU or Fontbonne, Alfred or Alfred State, Kings or Wilkes? I think somebody isn't, well, I guess it's a little further apart if you consider St. John Fisher and Nazareth, but we'll not dive into that just yet. We're going to talk men's basketball, though. We're going to switch gears and head to a team that I've been thinking about in the last few weeks in terms of the top 25. They're 19-3 this season, 9-0 in conference play. That conference being the Collegiate Conference of the South. You might remember that new conference, new-ish. It's now in its third season, which means they have an AQ. Maryville, Tennessee has been getting much the attention in this conference the last few years. They're 18-5, 9-1. That one being important for the record because this team beat them 91-83. What do you know about Belhaven? Spelled with one L, by the way, despite my typo in an email the other day. Well, their head coach is going to come and join us to talk about who Belhaven is. It's Josh Brooks joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline, the Mississippi College graduate. We'll talk about that as well. Josh, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. We've gone from New York and maybe some New York accents all the way down to the South and bringing in the Southern accent strong. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
By the way, I love the arena name, too. It's Heidelberg Gymnasium. We are throwing all the D3 names into this interview.
Yep.
First and foremost, 19-3 after an 18-10 campaign last year, 15-12 the year before that, and no season above 500 in Division III until last season. I emphasize in Division III. Belhaven joined Division III, I think, in 2015. Your three losses all happened before December 7th. Rhodes is 79-71 in Game 2. Ozarks 69-65. I got to ask you where that game was. We'll come back to that. And then Whitworth 66-64 at their place on a trip that included heading to Texas to play East Texas Baptist. You've got to be, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to say, are you thrilled about the season? Of course you are. What's your reaction to this season? Was this expected to be this successful at this juncture?
Yeah, I knew we had a senior laden team. We've been getting better since my first year. As you mentioned, hadn't had a winning season since they went to Division III. I came 3 years ago. We were able to get to 15-12 and have finished second both years in the CCS behind Maryville. And knew we had a chance this year to be pretty good. Certainly wouldn't have predicted 14 wins in a row. That's something that every coach dreams of and is something that's a little bit surreal. And it took us a little bit. We had some new players. We had players playing new positions early in the season. Just strictly honest, we weren't very good. We had to learn some things about our team, and I thought that trip to Whitworth was a big turning point for our team, finding out what we had to do to be successful, to play with the top teams in the country, and that was my goal getting here. Is within what's budget appropriate and reasonable to play as many of the top teams in Division III as we could on a year in year out basis to just give us a taste of where we want to be.
Quick question on that game against Ozarks. It says it was at the Hangar Dome in Jackson, but you're in Jackson. Can you give everybody an understanding what that what's going on there?
Millsaps.
Oh, Millsaps hosted. Okay, yeah, right. Okay, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
Remember your geography, David. Yeah, you guys are located in Jackson, Mississippi, which is almost as central to the state as you possibly can get. It is a little closer to the Mississippi River. I totally forgot Millsaps is, of course, in the same zip
we're
code.
Not a mile from Millsaps.
Yeah.
Very
Speaking of that was kind of my segue, I think, unintentionally. I just wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah.
Rhodes, Ozarks, and listen, pretty darn good Whitworth squad that you lost by 2 on the road. I remember watching some of that. Do you lean on those games still? Do you lean on, hey guys, remember when, or this is a scenario that, or whatever the case was? Or have you put them in your rearview mirror and are focused strictly on what you're doing now?
I think we've put them in our rearview mirror. We still, we're very fortunate to have seniors. When you have seniors that have been around the block, they can have some success and still understand that, today's success doesn't guarantee tomorrow's success. And I think our guys have been very good about that, coming to practice, still willing to work, still locked in, preparing for opponents, and winning on the road, even against teams that you're supposed to beat, is difficult. And so I think the fact that we've got seniors and that they've been able to stay locked in, but we've been mainly just focused on the next opponent, just each game. And I do think there's some bits of, awareness if we don't play our best that anyone can beat us. But yeah, we're just focused on the next game.
Speaking of seniors, Jordan Marshall's leading the way, 14.2 points a game. The scary part, and I don't usually lean on this, but it jumped out at me, in conference games alone, he's averaging 19 points a game. Usually the conference knows you best, and I usually see a dip in conference numbers, which is why I don't really pay attention to it that much. Of course, they're not going to have the same success in conference as they are out of conference. Well, except if your name's Jordan Marshall. He's shooting better percentage both on the floor and from beyond the arc. He's a better free throw shooter in the conference. He's scoring more in the conference. He's rebounding more in the conference. Quick check. Most of his assists have come in conference. That's a scary dynamic.
Yeah, he's done a really good job of growing this season. He had a really, really good sophomore season. Had a little bit of a slump his junior season, and came out this year, and it took him a little bit of time to get that confidence back and to find that groove. We've sort of changed styles from the way we played last year. Was a lot more post oriented, and this year we're more of the 5 out, spreading out and giving a little bit more space for penetration and that sort of thing. And I think it's just a matter of the team improving as they play together. More and more games has allowed Jordan to see, where he can get his points, where he can find holes in the defense, and I think his teammates trusting him more and more and more that he'll come through in the clutch. And so I got to hand it to him. I mean, he's having a fantastic senior season.
By the way, he's not the only one here. Jermero Hersey.
Yep.
Let's see, 9.1 points a game overall, but he's 12.9 in conference. The other one that jumps off the chart is Jacob Reese, 11.9 points per game overall, 13.5 rebounds per game, and double-double. We've talked about that already today on this show. In conference, he's 13.7, so 2 points more per game, and he's averaging 14 rebounds per contest. Another guy who is eating it up in the CCS. You guys, to your point, playing better here later in the season than early on.
Yeah, we're definitely playing our best basketball now, and I think you're seeing that in those numbers. I hadn't looked at those numbers in terms of where we were in non-conference and where we are now in comparison, but it definitely speaks to the improvement that our guys have had as we've gone along. Again, it took us some time. We were not clicking on all cylinders early in the season, and it's taken us some time, and I think you're seeing that in those numbers. And Jacob is just a special talent. I mean, you're just very few guys out there that have the ability to rebound like he does, and he's getting almost double teamed on blockouts. I mean, they're putting 2 guys on him to try to keep him from getting the ball, and he's still getting them. He just has an unbelievable knack for it.
The problem is, you've leaned on it a couple of times, these are all seniors. These are guys you're going to lose supposedly.
Why are you reminding me, Dave? Don't remind me of that.
Sorry. The COVID year is over. Yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate thing, right? Like, this is great, but does that put pressure then on executing now, taking advantage of these opportunities now, go win the conference now, go do something in March now, because you don't know when you might find this conglomerate that works so well? Or do you have underclassmen who are ready to step into these roles too?
Some good underclassmen. We do. And I don't know that I would put extra pressure on us. I put a ton of pressure on myself as a coach. And I think most of the coaches that would watch this would say that we put way too much pressure on ourselves in every situation, every season. We just, go out and play our best basketball and let the results speak for themselves. For our program, we talk about doing the things, being intentional about the things that make us great men. And if we're being intentional about being great men in service to others, in service to each other, putting goals ahead of our own comforts and things like that, then we just think the results take care of themselves. And so we try as much as possible to preach, hey, let's just do the things that make us great men, and then let the results come as they may. And I think that's the only real way you can go through a season, especially when you got a team like Maryville breathing down your neck and, undefeated in conference in mid-February and still are in a situation where we got to win every game to stay there. Yeah, fair point. Let's talk a little bit of, you said, came in a few seasons ago. You were a head coach at Jackson Academy. Prior to that, you were an assistant coach at your alma mater, Mississippi College. You were there during their Division III realm. Were you ever there when they moved on? Yeah. So when I played back from 95 to 99, we were Division II my freshman and sophomore years, and then Division III junior and senior. So I experienced both as a player. In fact, went to the Sweet 16, played, I believe we played Worcester at Hampton-Sydney in the Sweet 16 my senior year. I mainly watched from the bench. What year? That would have been 98, 99. 98, you finished at Christopher Newport in the second round. 99, you played John Carroll. John Carroll, that's correct. John Carroll. At Hampton-Sydney. Hampton-Sydney, yep. It's second game you played, but back then we didn't have a full 64. Right, we had the first. Yep. So then when I came back as a coach, we were Division III for just a couple of years before I spent the majority. When did you come back? Let's see. That would have been, 2009. Okay, so a couple years after they had made the Sweet 16 and played, ironically, in another ODAC school, Virginia Wesleyan. I was at that game. Unfortunately, it got overshadowed by a triple overtime between Guilford and Lincoln in the game prior. But so you understood this dynamic of Division III from a player having transitioned out of Division II. You understood the dynamic of Division III transitioning back to Division II. Right. You're now at a Division III. My genuine question is that where you are in, that you've enjoyed it? Is Division II still a calling? Not that I'm trying to say you're going away from Belhaven. Please don't get me wrong there, because I get the sense you're certainly comfortable where you are. But tell me that dynamic at play. You've seen it in multiple ways, in the old dark days, let's call it, and more in the more enlightened days. Yeah, I think from my experience, I've learned that the divisions don't matter a whole lot. It doesn't really matter where you are, unless you're at one of these elite Division I's like Duke or Kentucky or somewhere. There's always if you're going to win, you've got to recruit players who have opportunities at a higher level than you. And so you're always up against something that you don't have, and you just have to convince them that this is the right place for them. And so I think wherever we are, we try to highlight the positives, highlight the program, the way we treat our players, the way we care about them, love them, respect them, the experience that they'll have as players, the belief that we have in our players, that sort of thing, and sell them on that and the experience. And of course, always selling on the school. Belhaven is a great school with a lot to offer. And so, I think divisions to me are not the end all be all, that sometimes it's seen from the outside.
Let's get back to the team. You're in the midst of the final stretch run here. You get the advantage somehow of playing the last 4 games at home. You've already gotten Covenant under your belt at 103.80. You got Huntington coming up Friday and then Sunday against Asbury before the rematch next weekend against Maryville, which will obviously have a lot on the line. I know you're not looking past Huntington, but the fact that you're playing 3 at home, roll out the rest of the season here to then be able to stay home for the conference tournament, that has got to be an advantage.
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, we're going to have a huge crowd. The game against Huntington is actually tonight.
You're right. I can look at the calendar.
Yeah, it's a big game. They're a really talented team, very athletic, extremely fast, big, one of the top rebounding teams in the country. They'll present a huge challenge for us at home, and I mean, we're really excited to be at home. We played so many games on the road. When you're successful, it becomes very hard to get home games in terms of scheduling. And so we played a lot of road games first semester, and then the way the conference schedule fell.
The conference schedule. Josh, you played 5 in a row and 6 out of 7 between January 16th and February 4th. Who put this schedule together?
Yeah, it's brutal. We've got a situation where we have a couple of women's only schools in our conference, and which makes the men's schedule just not very easy to do. And so, especially when you're also trying to play double headers. So we're trying to play women and then men, but we have games where the women only play. And so the men, every one of our teams on the men's side has a year or two here and there where they have a really disadvantaged schedule. And I thought we did this year, with what you just mentioned. We had so many games in a 3-week window, as well as most of them on the road. And so looking at it prior to the year, I was concerned about it, but really thankful we were able to come out of it without any losses.
Well, and dating back to, just start of the season, you played, I think, 18 of your opening 21 on the road in some capacity. If I have this right, I might have that number slightly wrong. Your overall schedule points out you've played 13 on the road and 6 at home, so I guess we'll go with that. But yeah, I mean, you guys have been road warriors, to say the least, so having the home games is certainly a nice advantage. Maryville game quickly, 91-83 win on the road. That bodes well, obviously, for the game on the 21st next Saturday, or next Friday, I should say. Asbury will be is this Saturday. Seriously, calendar works. I know you're not looking at Maryville already, but tell me a little bit about the Maryville game you just played, because they think they're playing darn good basketball, and you beat them at their place by 8.
Yeah, it's we've played a lot of games in their gym over the last 2 years. They've obviously gotten to host the tournament the last 2 years, so we've played them a regular season game and 2 tournament games. So 6 times in 2 years in their gym, and so we're used to going there. We're used to being in must win or highly intense games in their gym, but they're a really good team. They're so deep. They've got so many guys that can come up big for them. Obviously, they've got a unbelievable talent in Reed Kemp, and then Chase Morgan is an exceptional player as well. And so they played very well, I thought. But just our guys just really wanted it, and I want to give my guys even extra credit, because in our league, obviously, sometimes we play Friday and then Saturday. And so we played at Asbury on Friday night, drove 3.5 hours to Maryville, got to our hotel at 12:30. And so guys got to their rooms about 1 a.m. and turned around and played that game against Maryville at 4 in the afternoon. And so just a big credit to the guys and how badly they wanted to get that win.
Impressive. Coach, I know you had to go at 1:30, and I just looked at the clock and realized we've gone over. So I appreciate the fact that you gave us some time on a game day, which, if I, again, remember emails I sent, I knew that. Yep. I appreciate the insight on the team and what you all have as a dynamic at play. congratulations on the season so far. Good luck as the campaign closes out in conference tournament action. Hopefully we'll be seeing you playing in March as well. As always, we give the guests, though, the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
Yeah, just thankful to be on here and just encourage folks to check out some of the teams that are down here in the South. You know, we've got a really high level of basketball being played, and I think you know, our teams are you know, got a lot of heart and togetherness on our team especially, and so we're just excited about moving forward and seeing what we can do on a national scale.
Well, you're certainly getting national attention. We'll see as you continue to roll along how much more that grows. Good luck tonight. Good luck the rest of the way. We'll talk to you, I hope, sometime soon.
Great. Appreciate it, Ed.
Thank you, Coach. Josh Brooks joining us here. Try that again. Killed my mic. Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate his time. Again, big schedule coming up. Huntington tonight. Asbury Saturday, followed by Maryville in the next Friday. That Maryville game, circulate if you can't get to this weekend's games. It'll be worth a watch. That will determine a lot. Even if Maryville wins, I think Belhaven's in position to get the conference. Well, it's going to go to a tiebreaker, and I don't know exactly how that's all going to break out. We can take a break. When we come back, we're running a little bit behind, but we'll get to our final guest as we talk men's basketball with Denison, the only team on our show who's actually nationally ranked. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Back with plenty more ahead.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
It's on us to stop sexual assault
in any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault. Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you are doing well. If you got questions for us, you know how to get a hold of us. We're on the Twitters, as it were. We're on the socials. We're on everything. You can get a hold of us however you need. Don't hesitate. We'd love to hear from you and answer any questions you may have. We're closing in on the end of the season. We'll talk about in our final segment what's ahead in terms of schedules and other aspects of the show, including next week's usual top 16 reveal, how that'll be a little bit of a twist. Coincidentally enough, that ongoing conversation on Twitter/X about who's closer, Oweonta and Hartwick, for example, another one that are across and close to one another. And we brought up Belhaven and Millsaps. Well, somebody either listening to the show or not paying attention to the show and just happened to mention it, brought it up on that as well. So, see, we're at the forefront of all these conversations. Talking men's basketball, we continue to talk at the only team in our conversations today that's actually in the top 25. That's the Denison Big Red men's basketball team, who are definitely having a great season. If you haven't paid attention, and I don't know how you've missed Denison this year, since they are 20th ranked currently in the latest D3 Hoops top 25. They're 20-2. Lost a game in early December. We'll talk about at Wash U against UC Santa Cruz. The Banana Slugs were a little bit quicker than the Big Red. Sorry, bad joke. Beat them in overtime 83-80. And then most recently lost to Canyon in double overtime 82-77. Something about overtime that's not so great. Chris Sullivan joins us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk all about it. His team playing well. They are on top of the NCAC conference by 2 games over Wabash and 3 over Worcester, meaning with 3 to play, you're in pretty good shape, Chris, with the conference tournament. But I know, you're a head coach. Business ain't done yet.
Took the words right out of my mouth. We got a couple left to play, and we've done a good job of putting ourselves in a good position. But we got to have you just got to win the next one and prepare as if you lost the last one. So we'll get after it today and tomorrow, and we'll go to Hiram on Saturday, ready to play.
Yeah, Hiram coming up in last place, 6-17, 1-13 in conference play. But you do have to finish it off. A home game against Worcester and a road game against Ohio Wesleyan. They're sitting 3rd and 4th in conference play right now. 17-5, 9-4 for Worcester, 13-9, 8-5 for Ohio Wesleyan. They're a game apart. To pause a game behind Ohio Wesleyan, there's a lot to play for, so everybody's going to be giving you your best bet. And Hiram would just love to just ruin your day as they're on their way out of the conference. What is the message to the team into these final 3, considering there's such a brighter spotlight now on the program than there was, say, even a month ago?
Yeah, and it's same message, just continue to prepare as if every practice, every possession matters, and every single game matters, because they all do. And I think we learned the hard way that if you're not ready to respect every single opponent in the NCAC, you can get tagged. And credit to Kenya. They came in here ready to play. Our guys were not 100% focused, we gave them enough opportunities to hang around, and to their credit, they made some big shots down the stretch. And it's one of those things, if you're not ready to play, it's hard to turn that on at halftime or when you force that first overtime. So we just got to continue to stay in that mindset in search of our standard and ready to compete every single day. And Hiram's not an easy place to play. So we'll be ready to go.
I've seen it more times than I can count. Let's go back to the start. Got out of the gate well, beat Adrian Carnegie Mellon, who's by 1 at home, who's obviously having a pretty good season themselves in a tough UAA. You got to win over Capital, Otterbein, and Oberlin, all at home, before then heading to Wash U to take on the Banana Slugs. Jokes aside, one of my favorite mascots, to say the least. Nothing against Denison and the Big Red, but Santa Cruz won that battle too.
Sure did.
Lost in overtime 83-80. That was 2 days after you played Oberlin, where you had to get in some travel. You beat Oberlin easily, 97-56. This is travel? Is this, tired because it's a trip over to Wash U and all that, the excuses there, or what's going on? Because Santa Cruz, good team, but not having that kind of season this year.
No, and they were they came out ready to play, and they were better than I think we thought they were going to be. So I don't know if we were fully prepared and dialed in, and I think we'd all be lying if we didn't think that we were looking forward to potentially having the opportunity to play Wash U the next day, and they were number 2 in the country. So at that point, we'd been playing really well, had knocked off at least one ranked team at that point, and just wanted to continue that opportunity to continue to play against the best. And it just kind of came out flat against UC Santa Cruz. I mean, we shot terribly from the free throw line and just didn't guard at the level that we have been beforehand and typically do, which has been a huge reason for our success. So I think we're just a little flat defensively. Couldn't make the easy free throws and just let one slip away there.
You got back on the horse and beat Colby the next day by 10. You've beaten Case Western Reserve. Not having the season we've had the last few years, but still a tough team. Got Hanover, got Olivet, got into conference play, thumped Ohio Wesleyan, thumped Kenyon, etc. But then Kenyon came back on February 1st, again overtime, and I remember Ryan Scott talking about this game as it was playing out. Double overtime loss, 82-77. When you thump a team and beat them 72-57, and I realize that's not a huge thumping, but it's still significant, and then they come back and force not only overtime but 2 and then beat you, you got to lick your wounds a little bit and think you got one got away from you, right?
Yeah, I think it's a tough it's a tough game when you go over to their place and play well and beat them pretty handily, just to make sure that we're dialed in on all cylinders. And that was an interesting game. So Ricky Radke, who's been our featured big guy for the last 4 years, three-time All-League, probably get again this year. He went down in the middle of that game, and that was just a little bit of a gut punch to lose him halfway through. And he'd been playing really well to that point. And then I think just a little bit of that adversity and us not being 100% focused on that opportunity, we didn't adjust well out after. When Ricky's in, we play a very specific way. And then when Ricky's out, we kind of have to adjust kind of our play style. And I think we just wanted to get that win and get it done, just kind of get it over with, as opposed to really settling in. Here's what we need to adjust. Here's what Kenyon's doing really well. And it was almost like we were just kind of clenching our fists the whole time, trying not to lose, versus what we've done, I think, a really good job of all year is playing to our strengths, playing freely, and playing to win.
Understand that. You've then got, again, this run of 3 left. You've got a 2-game lead in the conference on Wabash, who you've beaten twice. So let's call it 2.5. So a win, if I have this correct, against Hiram coming up here this weekend means you've got the number 1 seed in the tournament. It's been a funky NCAC, though, this season. I think there were high expectations for some teams that haven't come through. Some teams have certainly played below the standard we're accustomed. You play who you play, and you take advantage of the opportunities you guys certainly have. Are you, though, still worried that, you can still trip yourselves up in the close here or the conference tournament?
Absolutely. And especially as a head coach, you got to kind of live in some of that pessimistic mind. It's like, all right, what do we need to do to make sure we avoid some of that stuff? But I mean, the league is good. I think Worcester's main stumble was that they lost their leading scorer for a number of games, and Ashton Price is back and seems to be playing pretty well. So I expect them to come over here at full strength and be ready to play. And then Ohio Wesleyan's kind of found their groove. They lost a tough one last night at Wabash, but man, they can fill it up. So yeah, we know, and we know what those programs are about. We've had some really good battles over the last couple of years. And so, yeah, we're excited about the opportunity, the position we've put ourselves into this point, and what lays ahead. And if we're not excited to go out and attack the opportunity to win the league and host the conference tournament, then we're doing something wrong. I think our guys are going to be ready to go.
The one thing that jumps out, we talked about this with other teams, is you have 8 seniors on this team. Of the top 5, 4 of them are seniors in terms of scoring. Mm-hmm. Of the top 7, I think 5 of the 7 are seniors. Starts with Ricky Radke, 13 points a game, 6 boards per contest, shooting 63% from the floor. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, 61% from the free throw line. Darren Rubin, 12.4 points a game. Trevor Reed, 12.4 points a game. Reed is a sophomore. 9.5 from Kellen Smith, another senior. On the outside looking in, this feels like we got to do it now because we lose a ton of talent. Even if we do have it in our underclassmen, we lose a lot of experience, a lot of points, a lot of everything into next year. It's now or never.
Yeah, so we do have a lot coming back, and we will lose a good bit. But I think we this group has really been building and working towards this point. A lot of those guys you just mentioned, Ricky, Tyler Miller, Cam Smith, Darren Rubin, Gates Flynn, all those guys, Scotty Dean, have been playing a ton since their freshman year. And to your point, that experience factor is, I think, when you're a freshman and sophomore, you think you're ready to play, and you might be from a talent aspect for sure, but the experience factor is 10x what you think it's going to be by the time these games in late February come into play. So we're just really excited to live in the moment and get these guys the opportunity that they have worked their absolute tails off to get, and I think the success that they deserve.
Chris, it's interesting. You're in your 5th season as head coach. It started the COVID year when previous longtime head coach decided, okay, enough. This isn't worth it. Go 5-5 in that shortened season. 13-13 the next year, 15-11 and 22-23, 15-12 last year, and now you break out into this 20-win season. You're 20-2. Last time Denison had 20 wins was the 16-17 year, and that's the only time in recent modern history that Denison has had a 20-win season. And you've been there, we should point out, for a very long time. You were an assistant for a long time with this Denison program, so you can appreciate the type of season this is.
Yeah, it's been so much fun to be ingrained in this program for 14 years now, 9 as an assistant, and then, like you said, 5 as a head coach. And just to see the growth and the potential and all of that to come into fruition has been so much fun. But it's all credit to the leadership here at Denison that loves and supports all the athletic programs, and just zooming into our guys, this group has put in so much time and effort and just collective grit to fight through some resiliency. I'd be lying if I didn't think that we were capable of a season like this last year. But Darren Rubin was out for the entire year. Ricky Radke was out for most of league play. And then we had a number of other injuries. So we had a lot of adversity last year. While looking at 15 wins might not seem like a lot, but I think for all that we went through, that was a huge accomplishment for us to know that, hey, even when most things didn't go our way, we could finish top 4 in the league and win 15-plus games, which at Denison is a really – it's a solid standard to live by, but now we feel like we can we've broken through a little bit, as you mentioned, and are one of the better teams Denison's had in a long time.
You certainly know the NCAC well, other than just being an assistant and an associate head coach there for I think it was 9 years ahead of becoming the head coach. You're a Wittenberg grad, of course. Your first full season in 21-22. You knocked off the 4th seeded in conference tournament seeded Wittenberg squad before facing Wabash. That was that Wabash team that went all the way to the Final Four. Yep. So you know this conference well. It's in an interesting time right now. Hiram is leaving, right? There's been speculation. Well, no, there's no speculation. John Carroll is coming. There's been speculation of other stuff. And changes in the NCAC. There's always the fear of schools closing. Your alma mater is been in the headlines for the situation that they're in, other than external ones for Springfield in general. But just the issues that Wittenberg has had. What's it been like in Ohio? Because it's got to be a little unsettling.
At times, I think when you're willing to go down that road, and in thought and in conversations, it's a little bit scary. But I think everything I've heard right now is we're looking forward to bringing John Carroll into the league, and I think that's just going to elevate things across the board athletically. It's just a great name brand and reputation here in Ohio and the Midwest that's going to elevate competition across all sports, but basketball specifically. They've done a really good job these last few years. And I think my job just got a little bit harder if I saw correctly that their All-American point guard's coming back again next year. We'll get to see him and a good John Carroll squad. But I think, to your point, going back when I was playing at Wittenberg 15, 20, 25 years, there were always perennially multiple teams in the top 25, whereas the last couple of years it's been one, maybe two. But I think bringing another great opponent like John Carroll into the mix is going to add to our strength of schedule and add to our reputation and prestige across all Division III.
Football coaches just called and said, screw you. It'll make the football side certainly more fantastic and interesting to follow. You and I are in similar boats. My alma mater it's not as public. But in my opinion, we're in similar boats that we have alma maters who year 2, 3 years down the road may not exist anymore. Certainly hope that's not the case. Mm-hmm. In my situation, I kind of shrug my shoulders because I'm realistic to what I've been seeing. Is it hard to see a storied program, storied institution, et cetera, in Wittenberg in the headlines and have doubt of whether they'll even be open next year, let alone 3 years from now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was looking, when I was in high school looking to go to schools, I mean, Wittenberg was the place to go. I mean, Wittenberg and Worcester has the greatest tradition in Division III college basketball as number 1 and 2. And my senior year of high school, went to the national championship game. And then that's why I went there to play for a program like that at a university at the time who was doing really well, and it checked 2 major boxes in an unbelievable way. And to start to see those boxes maybe go a little bit unchecked is disappointing for all of us as alumni, just to see where that's at. But I guess it's a little bit comforting in knowing that they're not alone. The state of a lot of these colleges is not great and doesn't trend in a great direction, just with demographics and the amount of college-age students entering college is decreasing. So, a little bit of a testy waters ahead for everybody, even including Denison. We're in a position of strength for the most part right now, but doesn't mean that it's not going to get hard for us as well. So
that's actually a really good perspective on that. Denison, every school's got to be kind of deal with this possibility. Change gears real quick. You pointed out in an email to me something I sadly forgot, that you and I chatted on this very show when you were a student athlete at WIT. I did try and do some quick digging to see how often, if that had ever happened in the past. We found a few names. We don't have to go through them right now. So it's not the first time, but it's not often. But it also proves I'm getting old, Chris. And we've been around maybe a little too long. But it is nice of you to join us on this program as the head coach instead of the student athlete. I hope the experience was maybe a little bit better this time around.
Well, it's so cool to just what a testament to all the work and the effort and the passion that you've put into your project for it to sustain. I thought that was maybe the coolest thing ever when I was able to call into the program as a senior at WIT, and now here we are. And I don't think I would be here without all those experiences and the success we had at WIT, and a lot of that I've taken here to Denison. So a really cool full circle moment for me to have success as a player and to be getting some of that same stuff as a coach.
Well said. And calling is key there, folks.
Exactly.
This video idea was not the norm for the show.
Yep.
Even if I put my ugly mug on video, most people called in. Chris, appreciate the time. Thank you very much. Congrats on the success. Incredible season. Enjoy it as much as I know you are hyper-focused on Hiram, Worcester, and then Ohio Wesleyan conference tournament action. I know you'll look back with good memories of this one. In the meantime, we always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those tuned in?
No, just thank you for all the support and all the time and effort that you give to our student athletes all across the D3 level. It's just so special what they're giving to the programs, to the schools, and it's such high-level basketball and women's basketball and all these other sports. So I just appreciate all you guys.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you coming on. Makes our job a lot easier. Enjoy the culmination of the season. Look forward to catching up with you down the road.
Thanks, Dave.
Chris Sullivan joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate him taking the time. Again, good season, tough finish, and conference play, tournament play still ahead. We'll see. Maybe Denison can position themselves to have an opening weekend opportunity in March as well. We'll see. Haven't dove into the NPI numbers, though we certainly will be on future shows. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll put a bow on this one. A little bit of last-minute news we haven't gotten to, and any questions you may have sent your way. Also, one small correction. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops. Back with more after this.
For the love of the game, but for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else, and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro. That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. a great experience for me.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, as we put a bow on this Thursday's matinee show. If you've got any last-minute questions, email us hoopsville@d3sports.com. You can get a hold of us on our socials, though we paid more attention in-show to Facebook and Twitter, but you can find us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville on most of your socials, or just Hoopsville. Of course, live streaming on Hudl, on Apple TV, Fire TV, Roku, Android TV, and YouTube. And, of course, you can find the podcast if you happen to listen to it, I hope, on your favorite podcast outlets. If not, please alert me, and we'll make sure we get in to that favorite outlet, as it were. If you're looking to advertise or sponsor on the show, we are looking for that in conversations with some. We would love to have you. If you'd like to send us some swag for the studio, please send our way. The NABC award that D3 Sports got is over my shoulder. I'm still not loving its location, but I noticed in the interview you couldn't see it otherwise, so we're going to try and find a more prominent spot for that. But nice to have that in our studio, plus some other paraphernalia. Going to move some things around, add some more things that we haven't unboxed, as it were, and get more out there for everybody. And then we'll take a picture, kind of show everybody where it is. Quick correction. I mentioned a Merchant Marine player who played at St. John College in Annapolis. I did it again. There are two St. John colleges that I'm aware of in this area. One is in Annapolis, and one is the prep school in Washington, D.C. And every once in a while, I'll flip them in my head. I should have realized when I looked and saw she was from Waldorf, Maryland, there's no way she was traveling all the way to Annapolis for school every day. She went to the St. John College in the prep school in the D.C. area, part of a very good group of prep schools in the D.C. region, especially in the D.C. and Maryland side of that. Baltimore's got some very good schools too in the MIAA. So she was at that one, and thanks to Ronk for correcting me on that. I apologize for any confusion. I got all excited about St. John College being in Annapolis near Navy, and I just put my blinders on that. You might remember we broke the news last week, and we have followed up a few times on this dealings and goings-ons at Wentworth Tech with its men's basketball program. Now 3 games in a row, their women's coach has been leading the way on the sidelines for men's basketball. I am literally, as we're talking, calling up the men's website. We should point out, I think it's 3 games in a row. Actually, I need to double check that. I don't know if they played this week yet. I'll check that right this second, in fact. Come on, scroll. Yeah, they played Tuesday. That's right. So they have played 3 in a row, dating back at least, and it may date, I don't think it dates back to February 1st, the Endicott game, but the Curry game on the road on the 5th, home against Hartford on the 8th, and the home game against University of New England on the 11th have all had Kim Cole, the women's coach, in charge. Wentworth Tech, we sent an email to them, no response. Arlen Galloway, the head coach for the men's basketball team for 12 seasons, still listed on the website under the coaches tab. He is still listed, and his staff are still listed as a coaching staff on the roster page. And I believe, I'm actually going to check this now, but I'm pretty sure they're still in the staff directory for the school. We certainly appreciate that whatever has caused a change in coaching leadership, at least for 3 games. Yeah, he's still on the roster sheet. 3 games is an HR issue or whatever the case may be. There are plenty of rumors swirling around New England that we will not report on because I can't get them confirmed. We don't have anything official, even from the school after an inquiry. But at some point, the longer this goes on, the worse it looks for Wentworth. This is one of those where, come on, even if it's in HR, there are ways to handle this, get it out the door, talk about it, or at least make the changes necessary instead of everyone looking at the sideline going, well, why is your women's coach and women's assistant on the sideline of the men's games? And where is half the coaching staff? Last I checked, the men's coaching staff was down at least 2 assistants of its 3, or down 1. I saw Jerry McAuliffe on the sideline of the Curry game, And it was either Eli Harris or Jason Finks, who was also alongside him, best I could tell. Arlen was not there. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was another assistant who's not officially listed on the website who was on alongside, and Jason and Eli were not there, but I'm quite sure I saw Jerry. There are, again, rumors and speculation as to what's going on, what this dates to, what this in reference to, but nothing we can report on because, A, we haven't got anything official from the school, and B, I haven't talked to anybody involved with this. But it's been a week since we noticed it. Knocking on a week. It's a Thursday, and we broke it on Friday. It's been over a week since you made the change. I'm coming up maybe on 2 weeks for all I know. There's better ways to handle this. This is not the way. So we'll continue to follow. And maybe by Monday's show, we'll have more information on it, or follow us on the socials. And when we get more information, we'll share it there as well. A quick recap of the news we talked about at the top of the show. We will not show the video again, though. Mitchell men's basketball dealing with one of their best players in Eddie Volkerts, who collapsed during a game against Dean on Wednesday night. It was literally a quarter of the way into the game. They had played half of the first half. Dean was going to the free throw line, and Volkerts, I think the ball was given to the shooter, but he hadn't shot it yet. Volkerts collapsed in the lane. Mitchell College has come out with a statement, which I'm happy to show again, that says that approximately 7:24 on Wednesday, February 12th, during the first half of the game at Dean, a Mitchell College men's basketball player, who we know is Volkerts, collapsed on the court. Medical personnel immediately responded, administering medical care. He was taken to a local hospital. The remainder of the game was postponed. And the president goes on to thank Dean College and its sports medicine team for their response. We don't know if the game will be continued. That is a difficult decision to make, as you can possibly imagine. Mitchell's I'm looking at their schedule. Their next game is scheduled for Saturday at home against St. Joseph's of Maine, then at home against Riviera, and then on the road to the 22nd against Norwich. That's the remainder of their schedule. Dean, just as a side product, they're at Riviera coming up on Saturday. Then they're home against Johnson & Wales next Wednesday, and they'll play St. Joseph's of Maine the following Saturday. Does the game need to be made up? Mitchell's 14-7, 6-4 in conference play. Dean is 13-8, 5-5 in conference action. I wouldn't say made up, but picked up from where it was left off. If these two teams were down where Johnson & Wales, New England College, Colby Sawyer, and the rest are, Emmanuel and Regis, you could make an argument that no. Granted, tiebreakers could play an impact. Both St. Joseph's, both Maine and Connecticut, are tied atop the conference at 10-1, and they have split the regular season. If let's see here, St. Joseph's Maine lost to St. Joseph's Connecticut. Oh no, they only played once this year, so that's going to be your tiebreaker. So you don't need it for the number 1 seed, but you might need it for other reasons. So there's a lot going on with this. First and foremost, we hope Volkerts is okay. Best I am under the impression, he's in the hospital and recovering. We don't know the dynamics of what happened. Admittedly, from my experience as a news reporter or producer over the years, and having seen a lot of situations, it looked like he may have had a cardiac event. I think by the way you read that press release talking about the medical team response, I think that's safe to say too. Whether he's, what the long-term prognostication is, no clue. I'm just glad, by all accounts, he's alive. How this impacts Mitchell and Todd Peretz's team, hard to say. They're in the middle of a conference battle for the playoffs. It's a dynamic that it is hard to appreciate in the GNAC. I remember second year for Mitchell in this Great Northeast Athletic Conference. Our best for them. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll see how it affects, if they're going to make up that game There's nothing official anywhere about it. I'm double checking men's basketball championships. Dates, I'm just looking real quick. I just want to make sure I've got this right. Men's basketball, 10 teams qualify. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Riviere is 10th. Regis, Emmanuel, Colby, Sawyer, Johnson, Wales, New England College likely won't make it. And Mitchell and Dean are sitting 2, 4, 6th and 7th in those standings. Dean's 5-5 in conference play. Anna Maria is 6-6. Elms is 5-6. Riviera is 5-7. Mitchell's 6-4. Norwich 7-4. So there's a lot to play for, the seeding and all that. I'll be fascinated to see how it plays out. But our thoughts and certainly our best go to the family, the team, and whatnot. We'll see how it all plays out. Folkerts was just named to the D3Hoops.com top team of the week this week for the men's side. Just to read the synopsis from last week, averaged 29 points, 13 rebounds a game, helping guide the Mariners to a 2-0 record in GNAC play. He had 3 steals and 3 assists per contest while shooting 69%. He was 25 of 36 from the floor in the win over Anna Maria. Folkers finished with 29 points and 12 boards, 3 steals and 2 assists, while also sealing the win for Mitchell with a buzzer-beating layup in overtime. He was right back at it on Saturday, scoring 29 points, grabbing 13 boards, guiding the Mariners past New England College. So a dynamic player, probably the best one on the team. I've talked to people in the region who speak pretty highly of his skill set. We'll see how it all plays out. Other news and notes, obviously a big weekend coming up, top 25 action. There'll be plenty of it. In terms of top 25, only one team so far I think this week has lost. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Was Stout Women lost to River Falls last night, Wednesday night. So they're now 17-5 overall. NYU women continue to be unbeaten. Scranton and Bowdoin women will try and keep that alive as well. On the men's side, Wesleyan men are the only one undefeated. They've got the Maine weekend ahead. They just got back from Maine. They played Bates last week and played them to overtime 73-67. That game taking place where Joe Riley grew up in Lewiston. They're at Bowdoin and at Colby this weekend. So there's that challenge for them to stay undefeated going into the conference tournament. NYU's got a big weekend. Platteville's got tough games ahead. There's a lot still on the line throughout, so make sure you follow D3Hoops.com. We got our scoreboards up. There's plenty of action going on, so we'll have links the best we can to games, stats, and video especially. And a reminder, Monday we'll be back on the air again with Hoopsville. It'll be a 7 p.m. show that night. And a reminder, a week from today will be we're going to, for better or worse, I'll fine-tune the title, but we're going to call it the Top Seeds Show. Last year we called it the Top 16. We're going to call it the Top Seeds. We're going to kind of augment it a little bit. We realize everybody knows the NPI information, but there's a lot to figure out. I'm still finalizing the show. Hopefully in the next 24 hours that will be done, and we'll start working on content for that. It'll be a big show next Thursday. That's at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And in 2 weeks from today, we'll be back to another matinee show due to a gig I have on Thursday evening. And with that, we'll wrap it up. I want to thank our guests from Belhaven, Cortland, Denison, and Merchant Marine. From Cortland, Colleen Ames. From Merchant Marine, Alexa Shields. From Belhaven, Josh Brooks. From Denison, Chris Sullivan. I want to thank all the sports information directors and staff who helped us with this show. John and Joe at Merchant Marine. I want to thank Ashley at Denison. I want to thank, let's see here, Fran, of course, at Cortland, and Kenneth at Belhaven for all their assistance in helping us get this kind of shortened timeline show on the air. We're going to sign off. Hope you enjoyed it. It's going to be a good weekend of basketball. Good couple of weeks left in the regular season, worth tuning into. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the Hoopsville studios in the greater Baltimore area. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. We will take a break and be back on Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, with another live edition of the show. In the meantime, get in touch with us or follow us on social medias. Take care.